Hello, everyone. You're listening to Little Saturday Cars Live. How's everyone doing this weekend? I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday, especially Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa, depending on what you celebrate, and a Happy New Year. 2020, a new decade. I can't believe that we've proceeded on to a new decade. It feels like, I don't know, like 2 years ago, it was 2010. That's how time flies. But we're going to go through a series of articles as usual, and I think these articles are pretty substantial in a way, especially the last one that I will get to. But let's start with the first one. This one is titled Sports Sedan Rivals, such as the Alfa Giulia, the BMW 3 Series, the Genesis G70, and the Volvo S60 go head to head. With these cars, it looks like they try to take cars from each region in the world and try to compare them. So Alfa Romeo, Italian, BMW German, Genesis, I think that's owned by Hyundai, so Korean, and Volvo Swedish. The article's summary has specified that the Genesis has lacked the polish of the BMW and the Alfa Romeo, going further to saying that the BMW sings and the Alfa Romeo rips, but the Genesis gasps. I'm not sure if that's a negative tone that they're giving to the car, but in my opinion, once you get into the car, not any Asian car, but the Genesis and the Hyundais, you get in and it gives that tacky song welcome noise, and it's like a turn off, and I just don't want to hear noise. I just want to hear the engine start and get out of my way. The senior editor, Rich Kalpos, forgive me if I pronounce his name wrong, described that the Genesis as 85% of the BMW for 75% of the price. So there's a 10% margin there, but if you're into brands, then get the BMW. If you're not into brands, and if you just want to get bang for your buck, get essentials, get the Genesis. It's a good deal, he said, but there are better sports sedans, which I completely agree. And they further specify what's more remarkable is how the Alfa manages to make two versions of the same car, the Giulia and the Quattrofoglio. And I'm not sure which car offers the 488 engine block. I'm pretty sure it's a Quattrofoglio because that sounds like an upgraded version of the Giulia, which I think is the case because it has also specified that these two cars are distinctly satisfying but so different. And I think the differentiation of these two cars is that engine hypothesis that I was talking about. I think the Quattrofoglio offers a twin turbo V6, while the Giulia offers an inline 4 turbo, which I think is very similar to what they offer in the Fiat cars, or I don't even know, any performance vehicles that FCA brings out that has an inline 4 turbo engine in it. To jump to the case, the 330i has high praise for its 4-cylinder engine and the most charm. However, Alfa Romeo has high praises for its maturity. But I'm not really surprised with the BMW on how it has high praise for its motors, because BMW, Mercedes, even Porsche, any German manufacturer has emphasized the efficiency of their motors, and especially with their sedans, they offer 30 mpg. Now, different news. Are you considering to buy a car from a crook? Well, according to Fox News, feds are auctioning off the payday loan crook Scott Tucker's multi-million-dollar exotic car collection. Now, Tucker and his co-defendants are on the hook for a $1.3 billion payout to the millions of victims of their 13 or 15 long scheme, which involved charging interest rates of more than 1,000% in some instances, which is crazy. Now, if you have $1 million just laying around not doing anything, this is your opportunity to buy these cars at a discount. And these cars are crazy. The guy had a pretty impressive collection including a 2005 Porsche Carrera GT, which was black. I'm not familiar with the Porsche colors that they offer, but it's like a dark tone black. And the 2011 Ferrari 599 XX. So he participated in a couple of racing events. I think one of them was Le Mans, but the guy was into racing. So the XX is a track car, of course, track car of the 599, and also he has a 2011 Ferrari SA Aperta, which was built for 80 people apparently, and each of the three cars is likely to be worth over 1.5 million according to the article, which could be subjective, but if people are willing to pay for it, then that's the price of it. So he also had a 2011 911 GT2 RS, which is a pretty rare car, and it's worth around $500,000. So there you go right there. But I think it's crazy how this guy got caught 15 years later while he was charging these interest rates, especially 1,000%. But according to Fox News, that's apparently some law that he broke, or he did something else, who knows. But the guy's in jail spending 15 years, and the feds are going to sell these cars off, and whoever's going to get them is going to get a deal for them, because I think once the government takes control of your property, they don't really care about the intrinsic value of that item. They just care about getting the money, most importantly. Now to the next article. The next Ford Fusion looks like the Subaru Outback with a lifted style. And this sounds weird, but also kind of not surprising, because both of these companies, Subaru and Ford, are rivals. Especially when Warren Buffett was an investor for Ford. He emphasized in the past that Subaru was eating Ford's lunch in terms of their niche market of providing wagons and just not utility vehicles, but I would say crossovers and just simple mid-price targeted to the middle class type of vehicles. Now, to specify even further, this is just a test mule. Spy photos of the test mule were reported from Autocar Len, with the idea that the new lift wagon model from Ford will take over the Fusion nameplate. And, I thought Ford was decommissioning most of their models, and they're just sticking to the F-150, the Mustang, and a couple of other cars. But the Fusion wasn't really in the name of discussion when they were decommissioning those models. So the Fusion could be one of them. But however, the Frankenstein-like creation, how the article puts it, which is clearly stretched between the C and D pillars, does give us the idea of size of this new model, its overall proportions, and large tires suggest that it will be a mid-size crossover wagon larger than the compact Escape, possibly around the same size as the mid-Edge. But what's even more funny is Ford even admits back in 2018, when it first announced that it was canceling all its current passenger cars, that the Fusion name would likely be implemented into a new body style even after certain sedans went out of production. We should probably see something happen around 2021 with this test mule that they decide to bring out. And most importantly, there's like a bit of confusion, because with this test mule, it's supposed to be modified with the body style taken from the new Euro market Ford Focus wagon, but apparently they decided not to do that. I'm not sure. Don't really follow Ford too closely, but it'll be interesting to see what would they do with this car. And with Ford's competition, such as Tesla and anyone that sells cars for that matter, Ford is no stranger to copy design features and other things for that matter to try to replicate the niche market that company that they're trying to replicate and compete with has specialized in. So, for example, the Subaru Outback is specialized in some niche market that they're trying to replicate. And the article has specified that the hot selling Subaru Outback looks to be looks to be its primary target, which there you go. So I don't know, Ford is trying to reinvent itself, and the Mustang, the F-150, I don't really follow Ford too closely in terms of its sales and what they're producing, but it just looks like they're running out of ideas, and especially with new cars being the last option for most people, and they can just lease them or even buy a used car that has mid amount of mileage, like 50,000 and 40,000, and it'll be still good until 120,000 miles. Cars are more reliable than ever, and companies such as Ford are downsizing to try to just stay alive and try to see what's essential and try to be go back to its fundamental roots of what made them Ford, and that was the Mustang and the F-150. Another article that I came across, and this was shown, I know a couple accounts were showing this, and it's pretty crazy that, well, first off, the C8, the 2020 C8 is out, and there are already pictures that show that people are jacking its wheels. In my opinion, I think the carjackers or the wheel stealers did the guy a favor, because the wheels on the C8 aren't really that attractive. To be honest, I would buy aftermarket wheels to make it more appealing, and I'm not sure. Just the back wheels, especially how it's proportional to the rest of the body, doesn't fit well with the car, and I just think that's the case with the C8, and one of the only reasons why I wouldn't get one. But it looks like a good car, but let's see what the problems are. It looks like with Chevy, they're trying to push for cheap, reliable supercars, which you can have two of the three, but I don't know, we'll see. If it catches on fire or if they make a huge recall, which is technically GM's status quo, then we'll see what happens. But so these wheeljackers decided to take off the wheels and put the car on a block and let it stand like a seesaw, it looks like on the picture. So the source I'm getting this from is Motor Trend, and this incident took place on January 23rd in the city of Detroit, which I like to call Detroit, because why not? So just to specify further, because this article, there's nothing too much to it, but if you've seen the picture gives it more words than me talking about it, if that makes sense. So the people who put the blocks on the car then decide to put it on the mounting pads, or whatever you call them, the correct part of the car, where if you want to lift it, then that's where you put it. So his side skirts are probably screwed up as well with the improper placing of these blocks. But if you're a thief and if you're stealing wheels, and your last concern is to put the blocks correctly on where the mounting placements should be, if that makes sense. So to conclude with this podcast, I'd like to include another section to it called Song of the Week. Now, this Song of the Week is Captain Jack by Billy Joel. I'm usually a fan of Billy Joel, with Captain Jack, of course, Allentown, Piano Man, a bunch of other songs that I can't really think of on the top of my head. But he's not no one-hit wonder, and he's well known in the Long Island, New York City area for people that were old enough to watch him play with his very humble beginnings, which wasn't me, that's for sure. But yeah, so I was listening to Captain Jack earlier this week, and I'm very familiar with the song, and I didn't know what it meant because it just shows you how many times I listened to it. But once I read the deeper meaning behind it on Genius Lyrics, I think it's called, the song dives into a meaning and a theme that stems throughout that Piano Man album. And Piano Man is also an album and also the name of the song that's well known in that album. And we can start with Piano Man and its deeper meanings and my suggestion of what it means. And it seems like he is a musician or a piano player, of course, that is talking about the people's conditions of where they are in life, and basically their values of how they balance work and personal life and happiness and faking happiness and making it through hard times to get to your dreams. And I think that is sort of like an interesting theme that some people can relate to, because we have pretty much people in our lives that could fit that description. And when he was singing about that, I could sort of feel the energy and the emotions that are sort of going through those people's heads. And with this song, it sort of gives the theme from face value of the bartender who gives a smile on his face and he says, "Bill, I believe that this is killing me," as a smile ran away from his face, and he should be a movie star if he can get out of the place that he's currently in, which is a bartender. And, you know, Davey, who's still in the Navy and probably will be there for life, and the real estate novelist who never had time for a wife. You know, most of these things that show the reality of some people's day-to-day lives of what they value most. And what Bill is sort of showing and revealing is the consequence of these people's lives. Of Davey, who's still in the Navy, could be negative in a way because he's not trying any new experiences, just staying in the Navy. And the real estate novelist who never had time to start a family and create a life for himself stays in real estate. And the bartender who's wasting his time serving drinks to Bill, and he breaks down and tells him, you know, I could be something better, but doesn't have the incentive or the action to start. But I think Captain Jack sort of digresses into his theme further into a kid's perspective of him sort of deciding what his values should be without any supervision. And with Captain Jack, it's a name for the heroin dealer that used to give heroin to rich suburban kids out in Oyster Bay that Bill witnessed. And Bill is really good with his words of how he sort of depicts people and how he sort of gives them a sense of character of who they are. And with his tone and how he describes the person is sort of like an oxymoron in a way, where he gives a positive, you know, when I was first listening to the song, I thought it was more of a happy, joy, drunk night on the town type of song. That's what it sounded like in the beginning, but with the happy and joy is disguised in some type of gleam look of life and values and how you manage those two. And apparently the person that Billy Joel hasn't give a name to but is describing in the song has his values all messed up in a way of relying more on material aspects to encompass his character instead of his own humane features of emotions of empathy, or I don't even know, but for example, his the lyric in the song where it describes how they found his father in a pool, which is interpreting that his father died drowning, not Billy Joel's father, but the person that he's talking about in the song. And the first question that came to his mind was, then I guess I'm not going back to school and not concerned about his father's well-being, which I don't know, shows in a way of that type of materialistic culture and just worrying about the things, the inanimate things that surround you instead of the things that actually process emotion and process feelings and can process your feelings as well, and sort of give you sighs of relief and something you can talk to. But really, really interesting. I think Billy Joel was sort of ahead of his time in the 1960s when this album was first made. And, I think most of these issues of defining your purpose in life is sort of coming to light with the suicide rates that are sort of going up because of the lost purpose of what your life should be. And like many things that sort of come around you in this life or lifetime, there's really not a straight answer to anything. And there are a lot of, if you have a lot of moving parts and a lot of moving aspects to how outcomes are perceived, and you just think that it's all simple and there's a one word or one solution cause to anything, then I think in general there's a tough road ahead of you. And with Billy Joel's sort of theme and the whole Piano Man album, he sort of brings that aspect to life, but in a way of the consequences that come along with it if you don't tread carefully, and if you just assume that everything is sort of like a one face show of answers. So I digress, and if I got too deep, then forgive me, and if you fell asleep, then forgive me. Then this is your wake up call, because the podcast is about to end. I appreciate everyone for listening. It really means a lot. And hopefully tomorrow I'm going to get with Polar Bear SRT and we're going to reamp the podcast, the Dysfunctional Podcast, since I got new podcasting equipment. And, this new podcasting equipment comes really handy, and it would give me more of an incentive instead of using my former ghetto setup, which was my iPhone, to give you guys more content. And hopefully the future viewers that come in, I can give you more content and more reason to listen to these podcasts. So I hope everyone has a good rest of the weekend, and thank you for listening.